Right now, the shutdown continues with each side pointing fingers. Capitol Hill continuing to play games here while the rest of the country just shakes its collective head. The question is, how and when will this thing end? And next, is de Blasio a fiscal conservative? Well, you heard me right here. That's what he's calling himself. Tonight, we'll have how the Sandinista-loving liberal explain that one. And later, is Cory Booker just hoping to coast till Election Day? His opponent says he's a tweeter, not a leader. Is that an image that's starting to hurt him in the long run? Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Thanks so much for joining us this Friday evening, October 4th. Now, the government shutdown, it's in its fourth day, and while both sides say they want the shutdown to end, neither one seems willing to budge. I want to bring in Dominic Carter now. He's got the latest from the dysfunctional capital of America, Washington, D.C.
Richard, no serious surprise, no serious movement yet as we head into the weekend. We're now in the fourth day of a government shutdown that has been frustrating for so many.
People are suffering for it.
Everyone is feeling the pain of this.
A new possibility emerged Friday afternoon. That in the U.S. House of Representatives, the epicenter of the shutdown, something may be shifting.
I want the whole thing worked out, but I'm not the leadership.
Some Hill insiders think moderate Republicans like Peter King of New York could quarterback a discharge petition that would fund the government. But others believe there is no end in sight. The leaders of both parties are holding firm in public, insisting blame rests exclusively with the other side.
Now, the president continues to refuse to sit down with us Republicans. And sadly, that is a hallmark of his presidency.
I've said I am happy to have negotiations with the Republicans and Speaker Boehner on a whole range of issues. But we can't do it with a gun held to the head of the American people.
This isn't some damn game. The American people don't want their government shut down, and neither do I.
The markets are still on edge, and there is no certainty that Congress will come together to avoid a default on U.S. debt. Fiscal and financial experts believe, of course, that would be catastrophic. Richard?
Yeah, they use cataclysmic, catastrophic, all kinds of bad words here associated to it, and we're getting word here that Boehner, at least privately, saying, don't worry, we won't get there. Not today, at least for the cameras, no such promises. All right, let's bring in our good friend Richard St. Paul, Republican strategist, former vice chair for the National Black Republican Association. Can at least the three of us agree, a week ago, we didn't think we'd be here on Friday night and still no deal. We thought after the posturing, this thing was going to be for a few hours, maybe a day. But as this thing drags on, first of all, I think we as a country just keep looking worse and worse. But beyond that, are we at least surprised we're still here Friday night?
Look, I think that...
Can you give me an answer, my friend?
I'm not so sure. I mean, when the president says, hey, I'm not going to negotiate at all on a debt ceiling, I mean, that to me is kind of sets a bad precedence, all right? We want to talk about catastrophic, how about counterproductive towards the needs of Americans?
But I heard a great example. You didn't answer me. Are you at least surprised we're still here?
No, because the far right on the other side are so nutty that they're willing to take the entire country. They think it's a good thing. The entire country go over the cliff.
Okay.
So I'm not surprised.
I say no, but for a different reason than that. I don't agree with that.
But you know what? For our process, at least, before we get into politics, we've done that all week. I heard a really good analogy, and I'm sorry, I would source if I remember who I heard say it, which was, imagine for a second you have a Republican president. All right, you like this. I mean, so far, so good, right? And say you even got a Republican U.S. Senate, but you have a House of Representatives that's controlled by the Democrats. Let's say some signature piece of legislation the Republican president passes, it gets through both the House and Senate, and even the Supreme Court gives its blessing. They want to put the thing in place. But all of a sudden, House Democrats say, time out. Either you raise, for the top income earners here, income taxes by a huge percentile, or we're going to shut this thing down. Do you imagine what I would be seeing on Fox News TV, on the Fair and Balanced channel, and imagine what Rush Limbaugh and his ditto heads would be saying, and Glenn Beck and the Crazy Blaze or whatever he's doing? Do you know what they would be calling? They'd be calling for these people to be arrested, locked up as non-patriotic Americans. So my point is, as a functioning government, if we just step back from the debate over Obamacare and we say you can't run a candy store, let a country like this, there is an argument. This is against every rule of majority rule. You can't do this.
Look, the government, I'm not saying that the government, shutting down the government is a good strategy. I don't think so. I don't think it's a good strategy. But we have to deal with the real issues in that Obamacare is a very costly
and I'll get there, I promise,
okay?
Richard.
All right.
But in terms of, forget about political strategy. I think you're right. I know you guys have followed this for your lifetimes. But just from a civics kind of thing, this isn't the way to run a country, right? But it's not good for this country.
And I agree. And as you said earlier, even Boehner said, listen, I don't want the country to default. And he represents the House leadership. But look, he's in a tough position. He's going to give the opportunity to have Tea Party folks of the Republican Party make their point, and then after that, he's going to say, you made your point, it didn't work, now we've got to get back to the business of the country.
How do you think that's going to translate? Will it be a clean resolution put out there? Will he get some, throw a bone, like the medical device tax or whatever it is? You think that's going to be
Here's my prediction is that increasing debt limit is going to be, one, if you increase the debt limit and you revoke the medical tax, then you've got to figure out where that money is coming from in order to finish funding Obamacare. So you have that issue. In addition to that, I think that part of the compromise to raise the debt ceiling will include also a year extension for the personal mandate. I think at the end that's what we're seeing.
I don't think, Dominic, the president's going to give in. He's already given in a few times on this. I think the personal mandate, you push this back one more year, there's no promises they won't try and defund it 12 months from now.
That's not going to happen. This president is dealing with his legacy. He's not going to do that. This is his signature issue. He's going ahead, full steam ahead. And I'd like to spin this, if we will, and put a positive spin on all of this, Richard. I think we're all living in a very amazing time. Now, you may say Dominic's having this kumbaya moment, but think about this for a second. A hot flash or something, drinking that Kool-Aid. But think about this for a second. We're seeing a new healthcare system. And I understand your concerns about the cost, but to see all of this playing out in front of us, it's just very interesting and new to me, and it's a good thing where we're seeing fellow Americans that were uninsurable just a short time ago. Now they have the option of no longer having that monkey, if you will, on their back.
And for another night, we'll talk about the 20 million Americans who still won't have health insurance,
right.
and the neediest ones that won't. And the political brinksmanship that got us hit.
But my Republican friends weren't talking about that 20 million before.
Right.
They,
they have the fingerprints on why they took 20 million on.
When you look at Obamacare, it can't even do what it says it's going to do, and that is make sure every American has insurance.
But it's amazing.
That is a catastrophic failure.
We were looking at near 60 million people in this country trending to that didn't have health insurance. You talk to any hospital, any provider, they said this was an unsustainable system here. This just can't work. The ERs can't be the first and last place of resort. We now put 30 million people, probably when it's said and done, maybe 40, that are going to finally have health insurance, and we're complaining about what it doesn't do. I mean, to Dominic's point, we showed this earlier in the week, Richard. You weren't here. We brought up the quotes, the same exact stuff we're hearing now. Do you know when they said this? They said when they put in Social Security. They said that when they did Medicare and Medicaid in the 40s and in the 60s. This is a broken record.
And none of those are prime examples of good government programs. They're costly.
I want to see the Republicans going to go up and saying, let's defund Social Security.
No.
Let's get rid of Medicare. I want to see a Republican say that.
Certainly you looked at raising the age of when you can collect Social Security. And if you look at it, it's a pay-as-you-go system. So I'm paying for people who I may not have Social Security because I'm paying for people on Social Security now. So it's not a perfect system.
Do you think, to Dominic's point, that however this shakes out, that the fever will be broken? Or do you think there are some who's going to say, hell, we're to this point, let's play with the debt limit. Let's try and do that there. I'm already hearing that some they're trying to do the same approach to this, which is piecemeal, pay for certain things, of bills we've already racked up, right? But screw around with the full faith and credit of the United States. Right. They want to pay, okay, we'll pay Treasury bonds, but we don't want to pay this. I mean, you're going to see wealthy folks who like to write checks to Republicans on Wall Street. They're going to freak out in the next week here. I guarantee you're going to see headlines.
And here's one of the dilemmas, right? So, is Boehner so far in that he can't come out of this without some compromise? If there is no compromise to be had, as the president said, I'm not negotiating, then somebody's got to buckle or this country will default on October 22nd. And if it's Boehner that buckles without any compromise, that will severely hurt his leadership abilities, I believe.
You know, Dominic, there are some constitutional experts who say that while it has to be Congress who in effect pays the bills, they've made an argument, a different reading of it says the president through an executive order can try and do this. If it got to the 16th and we're approaching midnight, it's really the 22nd when the first interest payments are due on the Treasury bills. Do you think the president, and even Bill Clinton and others have said there's an option here to the table here, act unilaterally?
Bill Clinton is big on that, but this president has said he's not going that route.
Yeah.
The spokesman has said he's not going that route, and as a sitting senator, he indicated that he would not support such a move. So it would be a flip-flop if he changed now. I think, as the speaker has been quoted as saying, we don't know if that's accurate or not, but he's been quoted as saying, Speaker Boehner,
He took a ton of heat for this, right?
Yes, that it's not going to reach this point.
His base is lashed out at him. He's trying to say he was taken out of context. All I'm saying is, my friends, this will be a fascinating week, not just in the micro politics, but even historically politics, where we go and where the next 3 years for this administration can go. If the president capitulates on this, more of the same. If he sticks to his guns, the next few years may, and I stress may be different than his first 5. Okay, head over to Facebook and Twitter and sound off on a question of the day. How, and we'll add in there when, will this government shutdown end? Coming up next, we talk politics much closer to home. Bill de Blasio, he's been called a lot of things, but a fiscal conservative? At least that's what he says he is. We're going to explain and talk about some more regional politics right after this. Stay with us.